Good afternoon and welcome to this virtual event, Start Walking 5G by Orange. Bieke, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome.
Bieke and I will host this afternoon for you. Start Walking 5G. We will try to inspire you as much as possible on the subject of 5G and all the possibilities it has. This is a virtual event, a digital event. Due to the coronavirus, we weren't able to meet in a real-life event. But that doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you, because we do. At the right end of your screen, you will find the possibility to ask us questions. At the end of this afternoon, we will try to answer as much questions as possible on 5G, and those questions will be answered by our specialists at Orange. 5G, that is what we're going to talk about today.
Yes, indeed. About 1 year ago, Orange and Deloitte joined forces with a couple of industry powerhouses based in the port of Antwerp. And together they created the first standalone test hub for 5G, named the Antwerp Industry 4.0 campus. Today we present you an array of exciting testimonials, of use cases, of keynotes showing you the first promising results of that innovative cooperation. And apart from those results, we will also take a look into the very near future and how the power of 5G will continue to grow in the Industry 4.0. And meanwhile, during the course of this event, the participants will seal their cooperation in a very unique charter. But more on that later.
Yes, because Bieke already spoke about the Port of Antwerp, and that is where we will kick off this day. The Port of Antwerp, it's an economical and an industrial engine for both Flanders and Belgium. We will talk with somebody from the port in a few minutes, but first the mayor of Antwerp, Mr. Bart de Wever. We don't need to convince him of the importance of 5G for the Port of Antwerp.
Ladies and gentlemen, I bid you all a warm digital welcome to the city of Antwerp. As mayor, it is my ambition to further establish Antwerp as the digital capital of Flanders and of the wider region. Therefore, I am proud that Orange has chosen the Port of Antwerp to test 5G technology and to develop use cases for it. Antwerp is the most important industrial cluster of this country and the second largest petrochemical cluster of the world. But we never take these kind of investments for granted. 5G can and will strengthen the competitive position of our Port of Antwerp in the much needed relaunch of our economy. Although the COVID-19 crisis is far from over, we need to look at opportunities that lie ahead and put ourselves in the lead when it comes to digital infrastructure and innovation. 5G can create jobs in numerous sectors: transport and logistics, security, healthcare, automotive, and so on. 5G matters to you, to me as mayor of the city, and to all of us. Antwerp's ambition to be the capital of things, referring of course to the Internet of Things, is impossible without a solution for all the data traffic needed and for optimal connectivity. With the new federal government installed, I do hope that the deployment of 5G will not be delayed any further. The impact of 5G on public health should be demystified as soon as possible. Because we are ready to act, Antwerp's local security services are developing a 5G use case which we are ready to unveil. The Antwerp Industry 4.0 campus is ready to share the insights of all participating companies. As with all things digital, I really look forward to seeing the first use cases that Orange and the participating companies will present. Digital innovation should produce the kind of improvements to everyday life that make people wonder, how did I ever get by without this? I wish you all the inspiration to achieve that goal.
And so the day is officially kicked off with the Mayor of Antwerp, and that is Mr. Bart De Wever. Now let's talk more on the Port of Antwerp and the importance of 5G for them. Joining me now is Erwin Verstralen. He's the Chief Digital and Innovation Officer of the Port of Antwerp. Welcome.
Erwin, welcome.
We just heard the Mayor, Bart De Wever, claim that 5G will strengthen the competitive position of the Port of Antwerp. As the CIO, I can only imagine you agree with him on all accounts, and you were a supporter right from the start of the Industry 4.0 campus.
The short answer is, of course, yes. And it's an honor to have a mayor who is technology savvy, for sure. It really helps.
It really helps. And you're going to talk some more on the Port of Antwerp and the importance of 5G. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Xavier. Good afternoon, everyone. Why is innovation important for the Port of Antwerp? And how do we facilitate innovation? These are two really relevant questions. And in order to provide the answer to the question, I have to start by giving you a little bit of context on who we are, because context drives what is behind innovation. Innovation with a purpose, as we call it. The starting point is the historical evolution of the Port of Antwerp to what we have become today. An important port, a world port, second in Europe, that is providing jobs for 144,000 people, 20 billion euro of added value, and over 238 million tons of cargo on an annual basis. And what these figures don't show is the enormous evolution over the last 3 decades that we have seen. So we are proud of what we have achieved, but we're not naive. We do understand that we are in the midst of a perfect storm. A perfect storm defined by a couple of things that are happening at the same time. First of all, the digitization and the enormous inflow of technology that provides a lot of opportunities, but at the same time are also very big challenges. Geopolitics, when I'm saying China, Russia, and the United States, and the United Kingdom, I've mentioned 4 of the 5 most important trading partners for the Port of Antwerp. And guess what is happening over there as well? Room for growth. Can we still grow as a port? The societal debate on growth is becoming really cumbersome. And then finally, climate change and energy transition, which is for us very important because we're not just a port, but we're also the home port of the 2nd largest petrochemical cluster on the planet. And I haven't even mentioned the word pandemic, because these were things that were taking place before the pandemic, and it's now being strengthened, reinforced by additional elements. So the statement that we live in a perfect storm is for sure for real. And we do understand that. And so that's why we asked ourselves the question, who do we want to be as an organization? How do we move forward? Where do we make the difference? Keeping in mind all these challenges. And for us, it was a starting point of a mission and a vision exercise where we wanted to define clearly what the path forward for us would be. And the result of that is we want to be a home port vital for a sustainable future. And that short sentence contains a lot of depth, because we think that with these 1,000 companies, that 144,000 jobs, this economic powerhouse, we can make a difference towards sustainability, whether it's mobility, energy transition, digitization of the supply chain. We think we are there to make sure it happens. And for us, it translated in a strategic plan with 5 strategic objectives, like mobility, like transition, like safety and security, and like sustainable growth. And there's a lot of things in there where digital really becomes an enabler, becomes a catalyst to make it happen. But it also requires a lot of innovation, and this is becoming the playing ground for a lot of innovative tech. We are, for the moment, rolling out smart cameras. Cameras that are able to get out of camera feed data, that allowing us to identify, for example, the composition of a train, that allow us to identify where a ship is exactly located, that allow us to identify oil spills on the water. Next, drones. Very relevant for us because we are in control of a port that is 120 square kilometers big. To put that in perspective, you can take the entire city of Antwerp and put it 6 times into the port. That's how big it is. And we as a port authority are there 24/7 to keep an eye on the port from a safety and security perspective. So drones are an enormous opportunity for us to have a bird eye view permanently on what is taking place. For sure, if you can combine that with smart cameras. But it's also the playground for a lot of sensor technologies. We have air quality sensors. All our safety buoys, over 200, are equipped with a sensor that if you open the locker, it triggers an alarm. We're now starting to equip our bollards, over 7,000 of them potentially, with sensors so that we can detect the strengths that are being pulled at those bollards. And then finally, autonomous shipping. Now, fully autonomous ships are still ahead of us, but remote controlled ships are there. They are already operational, and we want to make sure that they can also pass safely and securely through the port. What it also indicates is that all these things require a lot of innovation, not only done by ourselves, but aided by an ecosystem of partners, academia, startups, scale-ups, and also established companies. For us, it's clear that we are an innovation hub. We are an innovation platform. There are tons of relevant use cases in the port, and we want to make sure that anyone who has something of value in terms of promising technology can come to the port and can demonstrate the capabilities, make the solution market ready, and be there to go faster into implementation. So that's also what it means when we are into 5G. Again, it's a question of bringing forces together, in bringing an ecosystem together of companies that are all curious to find out what it is that 5G can bring. And for us, one of the goals we're aiming for is to create a digital twin of the port. It's a digital copy of the port that allows us to understand what is taking place. And all that sensor data and camera data and drone data can be embedded in that digital twin so that we can react the moment something happens. And it's a combination of a couple of things at the same time that gives us these alarms, gives us these triggers for us to focus on. Now, 5G is for us a very important potential enabling technology. And I say potential because we do know that it is nascent technology and that there is still a roadmap years into the future before it becomes fully mature in the sense of all the promises that have been made. Now, that is not important. In fact, it's good to know that from the start so that you can adapt accordingly, that you can learn as you move along. But again, it's important to do that together. But as you have seen all the numerous examples of drones, smart cameras, sensors, they all rely on scalable, secure, and with low latency connectivity. So more than 4G, 5G will provide us the enabler to do that. And we're also inviting all these ecosystems, for sure the Orange Campus, to come to the port so that we collectively can demonstrate and prove what the potential of 5G is, but also the importance for a country such as Belgium. 5G is one of the building blocks, is one of the foundational pillars for a digital society. And we cannot afford to not connect to the rest of the world and to let this opportunity pass by. That would be very dangerous. Now, in order to make people understand what the potential is, it's good to paint a picture of the future. And we have provided a movie, a short movie that gives indication of what is feasible if you bring all these technologies together enabled by 5G. And it's part of an ongoing exercise where we think about the future and try to understand where new technologies can enable our employees to be more effective and efficient. We call it APICA. APICA is the brand of all these initiatives taking place. It stands for Antroport Information and Communication Assistant. And the assistant is important. We do not see a future where technology replaces human beings. We see a future where technology enables our employees. That's the important difference. So what we're going to show you is a small movie of APICA that demonstrates the potential of the digital twin and all the capabilities underneath.
Good morning and welcome back. General status report. Today is an overall sunny day, with a light breeze from the northwest. Port traffic is busy as usual at this time of day, with 221 barges and 180 seagoing vessels in port. We're expecting 95 new arrivals and 73 departures today. Road mobility is within efficiency norms. There are 2 INOS quality alerts and 1 ongoing event. Would you like to investigate? At 8:51, INOS 22 detected possible hazardous compounds. Analyzing. According to historic wind data and ship tracking, a possible cause might be the chemical tanker My Fair Lady. Would you like to collect an air sample? Please select available UAV. Calculating flight trajectory. ETA in 1 minute 30 seconds. Initiate. Confirmed. I am Apika. Welcome to the port of the future.
The port of the future, that was a look you gave us into the near future, maybe. We still have to wait how 5G will be enrolled in Europe. Thank you so much, Chief Digital and Innovation Officer of the Port of Antwerp, Erwin Verstralen.
Thank you, Xavier.
Thank you. And now let's join Bieke because she wants to pick your brain on 5G.
Yes, indeed, Xavier. Before we dive deeper into the very exciting world of 5G, we are very keen to find out how you are looking at the possibilities of 5G. So would you be so kind to participate in our poll that should be popping up on your screen right now? Let's take a look at the first poll question. Which aspect of 5G will bring the most added value to the Industry 4.0? Is that more flexible adaptation of your production environment? Is that better insights thanks to the possibility to capture much more data from connected services? Or is it, according to you, facilitate employees with digital tools to increase their productivity? Or less downtime, higher productivity thanks to ultra-reliable and low-latency network connections. Pick one of your answers, or maybe more answers. I'll leave you some time to answer the question. And in the meantime, I will take a peek at our digital artist. Hello, Matthew Don. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you.
What are you doing with the computer and with the tablet?
Right now, I'm drawing a digital charter that all the participants can sign afterwards.
Yes, okay. And why are you using a tablet as your canvas?
Because the event is about digitality, about 5G, and it's only fitting to use digital means to create an artwork.
Okay, I'm very curious what it will become. I will leave you to it. And in the meantime, we go back to Xavier.
Thank you, Bieke. We will be joining you in a bit. But now I'm joined on stage by not one, but 2 people. One of them is joining me virtually, and that is Valérie Cussac. She is EVP Smart Mobility Services at Orange Business Services. Welcome. And Werner de Laat is the man standing to my left and your right. Werner de Laat, Chief Enterprise Officer, Innovation and Wholesale at Orange. We are talking about 5G, but we still have to figure out how to get 5G on our phones, get it because it's not here yet. How do you see that evolving, the whole license discussion?
Okay. First of all, I want to welcome everybody, all participants to this seminar, this web event. When I say everybody, it's of course all participating companies, all customers, prospects, the regulator, and people that work in the ecosystem, and last but not least, of course, all our Orange team members as well. As you said, we're doing a co-host on this presentation. So I also want to warmly welcome Valérie, who is live from Paris. That is one of the advantages of this digital world.
Yes, and she's joining us because of the corona situation from the offices in Paris, of course. Back to my question, the 5G license auction, how do you see that evolving?
Yeah, well, if you don't mind, I will come back on this later.
In the presentation?
In the presentation, because we did a sort of a journey before we can get
that
really to
leads
the
up
license.
to the answer. Yeah.
And I must say, we will reveal it in a minute, but we are, thanks to the regulator, we have used over the last months the test license we got from them in order to make this project possible. So
Okay, so the floor is yours, and
Thank
of course from Valérie Cusack.
yeah. So Valérie, how are you doing?
Hello, Werner. Hello, everybody. This is definitely my pleasure to be here with you today, even in remote. But I was very exciting to be with you now, because this is a milestone in a story that we have started a couple of years ago now in Paris, Werner. And since that date, we can see that industrial campuses have become a reality. And this is today a great opportunity to share the learnings that we have on this 5G Live in the port of Antwerp.
Yeah, indeed. For the audience, Valerie and I, we were asked about 2 years ago at an executive meeting in Paris to share our insights, how we see 5G impacting the business world. And at the end of the presentation, we both decided that we would stop talk about this, and no longer slideware, but to test it and to install somewhere in Europe a network for industrial application. And so this is what we did. In the port of Antwerp, we installed what we call a full 5G standalone network. Full 5G means that it has its own 5G radio network. We installed 14 antennas in the whole port, covering the almost full area, and its own 5G core network, which means its own 5G intelligence. We did it in cooperation with ZTE as an equipment vendor. Now, quite rapidly, we tested this network and we saw the full potential of this, I would say, unique concept. We had a data download of 1.4 gigabit per second and a latency of only 7 milliseconds, which is in fact the speed of reaction of your network. Now, of course, these are great figures, never seen in such an industrial setting, but we want to go beyond this. So we wanted to see in a sort of co-innovation what companies can do with this kind of technology. And so we send an invitation to a number of companies to create what we call a co-innovation 5G hub. And we were very surprised of the interest of some of the players. So quite rapidly, BASF, Borealis, Covestro, the Port of Antwerp itself, and Katoen Natie joined this co-innovation hub, which we managed together with Deloitte Consulting. Now, it is an open innovation, meaning that everybody is willing to share his or her experience, and this makes it so unique. So these companies, they built, together with the support of all companies, their own industrial use cases on 5G.
Werner, you explained to us the setup of this 5G in the port of Antwerp, and this is, of course, new perspective in industry use cases to support the digital transformation. This campus is definitely part of a global 5G strategy within Orange to support locally, but also globally, our industrial customer in this transformation. The key assets that we have, and I should say the first one, the key pillar, is the network by itself. At the local scales, we have 6 European countries where we are currently planning to deploy, to rolling out the 5G network. But not only that, at the global scale, we have network and system integration expertise in more than 100 countries across the world. And this will be very useful to have this both knowledge on the telco side, operating networks, on the integration side also, combining this to provide different models to support mobile private network, from a full integrated model to a hybrid one, where you can connect to the public network, to a full virtual private network on our frequencies. The second pillar that we have is partners and ecosystem. And here I would like to say that we are working with network and solution partners, just like, for example, Airbus and Streamwide. We are delivering end-to-end service on top of the data transport provided by 5G. And let's take this example of Airbus Streamwide is critical communication that is very much of interest when we are talking about campuses. We also bring some partners in some industry activities, typical industry activities, like Siemens, for example, when it comes to manufacturing processes and in the shop floor challenges. That could also be JHD, for example, when it comes to construction and mining processes. The third pillar, and this has been mentioned by Erwin Verstralen at the beginning of our session, is the integration between the pieces. Not only 5G is useful, but some other pieces to really build end-to-end solution. This will provide the value expected by our customer. For that, we combine our network solution with Orange Business Services IT capabilities. It's about system integration, data analytics, cloud, and cybersecurity. So this is, in a nutshell, how we see 5G bringing potentiality, competitiveness to our customer, and we are keen to support them locally and globally. Now, why is this happening now? Indeed, I would like to share with you the interaction that we have at this moment with our customer, and this is also confirmed by some analyst publication that we have recently, is that 3/3 of our customers are willing to upgrade their existing network by 2022. Why that? What are the reasons for this change now? It's first because of the necessity to improve their infrastructure from analog to digital, to replace some end-of-life equipment and some maintenance costly technologies by new ones. The second is improve employees' productivity. And the third one is drive innovation thanks to automation, thanks to automated guided vehicles, computer vision, AI, all these combined to drive automation. Is this something, Werner, that you see from your experience in the use case in the port of Antwerp?
Yeah, yes, indeed, and we will come back later in each use cases more in detail, but we exactly found back these three kind of categories. In the first category, in the replacement of older infrastructure, I can give the example of BASF, who is seeking to a replacement of its old Tetra network by a 5G solution. In the second category of augmented worker, you will see the use case of Convestro and of Katunasi. And in the last category, on AGVs or on digitalized automation, we can, of course, give as an example the connected tugboat of the Port of Antwerp, and I would say an AI-driven quality control at Borealis. Now, these are the participants of our co-innovation hub in the Port of Antwerp. But in parallel, we were also already active in a co-innovation stream together with Atlas Copco. Now, Atlas Copco, also more than a year ago, they decided to test a private mobile radio network based on 4G with Ericsson. And we joined them to do co-innovation on this. Now, this network will be later this year upgraded to 5G. And we recently asked them to join this work group because it's very important to share experience between the different models. As you said, we have the choice between a public network, then a public network with slicing, and I will come back on this later, and thirdly, a full private network. Now, in order to explain why 5G is such a game changer, I have to explain a number of technological features that enable this kind of use cases. And I would refer to the triangle you see on the slide. The first one is what we call high data throughput, which is high data speed, the possibility to transmit very rapidly data through the network. The second one is low latency, high reliability, which means that the network responds immediately. It's an always-on network. And the third category is that 5G enables to connect a huge number of devices. Now, if you combine these technological features, you can identify 3 areas of application. The first one you see on the top corner, it's the enhanced mobile broadband, typically use cases that have to deal with augmented reality, virtual reality, and video broadcasting. A second category is what we call massive IoT, massive Internet of Things. Like Bart de Wever said, if you want to connect a lot of things into a city, typically you need this kind of functionality. The last one is what we call critical IoT, critical Internet of Things, which you need in industrial setting if you want to do robotics or if you want to do industry asset management. Now, 5G is designed for security. We know that 2G, 3G, and 4G is secure, but 5G puts another security level, especially designed to do industrial and I would say business-critical applications. Now, if you want to sum up all these features, you could say that 5G is a technology that gives you a high-performing, secure, and safe mobile connection. And of course, this opens a world of a lot of industrial application. Now, there's one aspect to highlight the uniqueness of this setup in the Port of Antwerp, which is what we called network slicing. And in order to explain network slicing to non-technical people, I often use the metaphor of a highway. Now, a highway is an infrastructure designed to travel fast from point A to point B. Now, if A is Antwerp and B is Brussels, we all know that travel time is not always fast and it's very unreliable. It depends on weather conditions, traffic jams, road construction, whatever. So it's not the ideal infrastructure if you need reliability and speed. Well, imagine that you have a reserved lane on this highway for yourself, like a carpool lane or an emergency lane, then this infrastructure would suit your purposes. Well, that is exactly what network slicing in a 5G network means. And that is also what we have done in the Port of Antwerp. So we gave to each of the participating companies their own slice in the network. It's like they have their own virtual private network. It's combining the best of both worlds. First, they have the luxury and the flexibility of their own network, but they have the economies of scale of a public network. Now, is this kind of an infrastructure that you also see within France or otherwhere in Europe?
Yes, Werner, of course, this is something that is a 5G private network using slicing technology is the most advanced technology in the 5G protocol. So this is definitely part of the global network strategy in France, but also in all over the region where we are present. Belgium is the first Orange country where 5G standalone has been deployed at such a scale, and you are ready to offer it. But more generally, Orange can deploy different topologies, as you mentioned, in mobile private networks, depending on the spectrum availability and also depending on customer requirements. So ranging from a full integrated on-site network with customer-owned frequencies, over hybrid private network interconnected with the public network, to a full private network with slicing, like you mentioned. And typically the role of Orange, this is definitely part of Orange offer, is to advise our customer to choose the best 5G networks topology according to their requirements, according to their specific locations. Now, if we look at the business outcome of all this, and this is here of interest to look at the last ABI research in that matter, they indicate that with the different use cases both powered by cellular technology in factories, we can expect 8.5% operational savings. And what are the use cases the most promising? You see, the first one is robotic. It's about autonomous guided vehicle, autonomous mobile robots, speeding up the supply of the components, the supply of parts to workers, thereby preventing slowdowns and a better coordination of staff. The second use case, promising also, related to connected equipment or condition-based monitoring, which improve maintenance schedule and here prevent a downtime in most of the case, what is very interesting in cost reduction. The third one is asset tracking. These play a key role in tracking production material, tools, but also finished goods to improve globally operations, and as well as augmented reality, which also bring flows of information to and from employees to support their day-to-day work. And in that area, let me take the opportunity to share with you a co-innovation that we did with our customer Schneider Electric in their manufacturing plant of the future in Vaudreuil, west of France. And here we decided to test the case of an operator, you can see it on the screen, equipped with a 5G tablet, taking a video of the machine to be maintained, and on the screen display real-time some information related to the PCs and the machine that is on the video. This information comes from status, specific performance related to the different PCs, and this will help the operator to act accordingly and more rapidly. Here, we are using the high latency, the low latency of the 5G. And we have put in place an architecture with a core network virtualized, enabling edge computing and enabling then real-time action for the operator. The second benefit of the 5G is, of course, the bandwidth, where we have a very good experience, upload and download, making the experience for the operator very fluid. And most importantly is the first result that we have from this co-innovation. It's 80% time reduction on the root cause identification that we get from this experiment. And when you know that it represents half of the time spent to fix a problem, it represents a lot of potential in savings in operation and cost reduction. So after this on-the-field real experiment, Schneider Electric was convinced by the 5G benefit in that case and is currently considering how to put this at a bigger scale.
Okay, thank you, Valerie, for this example, because it really is an example that 5G can be a game changer. In the meantime, I have already Xavier with me on the stage, so I'm sure he's eager to get an answer on his question. And indeed,
I am.
if you look at what is still blocking us for deploying our 5G, it is because it can be a real driver to launch the economy, a relaunch that is ever needed than today. And we are very glad that since a few weeks we have a new federal government in Belgium, because we know it's key to get the 5G license auction started. The new government has clearly identified that they want to seek a broader support from the stakeholders to launch this 5G auction. I think all of the participants today, they're more than happy to give this support to the government and to show the real benefit. Now, this is one of the blocking points. A second blocking point that we still have in Belgium is the one of the EMF norms, the electromagnetic field emission norms, which are, let's say, much more stricter in Belgium than in the rest of the world. Because, just to give you an example, in Flanders, because it's a regional authority, they are 4 times stricter than the advice of the World Health Organization. In Brussels, there are even 50 times stricter. So you can imagine that today it's very difficult to deploy 5G within Belgium. Now, we know this is a very sensitive topic, especially in COVID times. Now, over the last 9 months, like all of us, we have to hear and watch a lot of fake news spread by activists about 5G, that it would harm your health, that it kills birds, that it even causes COVID. Now, today, I think it's the right time to explain to the broader public that 5G is, from a technology point of view, and especially on a mission point of view, not different from 2G, 3G, or 4G, and that today no medical or scientific study exists that links any health problem with a 4G or 5G network. And that's why it's so key to show that this can be a real benefit, not only for the industry, but also for society.
Thank you for joining us all the way from Paris. Valérie Cussac, EVP Smart Mobility Services at Orange Business Services. And of course here next to me, Werner de Laat, the Chief Enterprise Officer, Innovation and Wholesale at Orange. Thank you. Now let's join Bieke, because I'm super curious, Bieke, what people answered on the first poll question.
Yes, Xavier, let me discover the answers together with you and with the audience. The question about the expected added value, which aspects of 5G will bring the most added value to the Industry 4.0 according to you? Well, let's take a look. It's a close call between answer B and answer D, but the most added value is expected to come from better insights thanks to the possibility to capture more data from connected devices. Well, Xavier, I think we can discuss that with our speakers later on in the Q&A. Back to you.
Thank you, Bieke. And people are going and coming. And now I'm joined by Vincent Fausti. He's a partner at Deloitte, telecommunications, media and entertainment leader for North and South of Europe. But from Deloitte, how did Deloitte get involved in the whole Industry 4.0 campus?
Thank you for having me, first of all. We got involved from the point of view of our clients. Our clients are private and public organizations who are facing challenges where their digital transformation as a whole. And as we'll talk about today, 5G is a key element of that digital transformation, hence our interest on the topic.
I'll let you get things started. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Indeed, and again, thank you for having me. I feel somewhat privileged to be able to address a large audience in such extraordinary times. As we said just a minute ago, the question we'd like to frame today is whether there is a positive economic impact for 5G with a focus on enterprise. And I trust from having listened to my predecessors today that some of the demonstration is starting to take shape. But before we do that, let's step back just a little bit. Now, Deloitte's recently published, fortunately enough, its annual consumer trends survey on mobile consumers and behaviors. And in this year's edition, we asked the panel their opinions about 5G, and what clearly surfaced, by and large, is that the Belgian population does not know much about it. Now, mostly for not being able to experience it. We saw the same results a couple of years ago with artificial intelligence, which now is actually become mainstream in all our consumer devices, but these are typically invisible innovations. Now, what is certain, however, is that consumers have rising demand for speed, convenience, and data allowances on their smartphone and mobile devices in general. But our point of view today will be centered around the enterprise and their need for superior connectivity to enable their own digital transformation. As a matter of fact, since the launch of the first iPhone in 2002, and I found this yesterday looking in the basement, some of you might remember this, the first iPhone, consumers have been adopting digital technologies at a much faster pace than our enterprises, not to mention our government authorities and regulators who need to play catch up most of the time. Now, digital is, however, transforming every sector and touches the workforce in a unique way. Sectors and functions are being disrupted, whilst others actually take advantage of these technologies to raise their competitive position. And we see a very interesting phenomenon of consumer norms and expectations that were born in the previous decade, now moving and gradually influencing the adoption of technologies inside the enterprise. So these same technologies, whether artificial intelligence, cloud computing, mobile, are growing substantially inside the enterprise, but they're still lacking the amplifier, the multiplier effect we have experienced in the consumer world with the smartphone and 3G and 4G we believe 5G will deliver in the enterprise environments. In a recent survey we conducted with more than 400 executives, so now focusing on the enterprise stage, these 400 industry executives across a variety of industry sectors. Now, 86% of them say that advanced wireless will transform their organization within 3 years, not 10. Now, 8 out of 10 believe it is extremely important, now very or extremely important, to take full advantage of emerging technologies. Now, there's some work to do, because out of the same group of 400 executives, 57% of that group believe their current networking infrastructure prevents them from addressing innovative use cases. So there you have it. Our point of view is that 5G is the force multiplier, the amplifier for enterprise adoption of digital technologies as a whole. It enables them, it connects them, and it brings it to the relevant point of views in a way that no other single technology has ever been done before. Now, today we'll be making 3 statements and trying to illustrate those statements with case studies or use cases, we call them. And the first statement is about value, economic value. And I'll read the statement out loud. Over the coming decade, 5G enterprise deployments are likely to unlock hundreds of billions of dollars of value, obviously at a global scene. Now, again, despite the near doubling of 5G devices available over the last 6 months only, including the recent launch of the iPhone 12, the case does not sit with the residential market, who would be massively adopting 5G for enhanced entertainment or personal connectivity, at least not in the first instance. The value, again, is locked in the enterprise, who will be able to leverage the technical advancements 5G offers. Now, what are those advancements? Some of them have been mentioned, in some of the descriptions of the case study, but let's, wrap it up. First of all, the speed. The connectivity speeds of hundreds of megabits per second per application, which was a rate that was only previously available through fiber connections. Second, the reliability rate of 99.9999%, which basically means a downtime of about 30 seconds per year. That sort of reliability level is not only appropriate for business-critical applications, but also for mission-critical processes. We'll hear about some of that later today with the case study presentation. The indoor performance, also including in environments where metal obstruction is an issue. And finally, the massive density. Now, 4G networks could only support a maximum of 100,000 devices per square kilometer. 5G can connect up to 1 million, therefore paving the way for connected factories and sites. Now, in all fairness, some of these industrial use cases for advanced wireless connectivity were already achievable with 4G or LTE. This picture you're looking at is an automated distribution center, for example, and uses a private LTE network with a single base station controlling about 1,000 robots. However, for that solution to deliver its value, it requires significant network engineering and competencies. The picture you're now looking at on the screen is a slightly different environment. This represents the Mercedes Factory 656. This is a 220,000 square meter facility in Germany for the production of Mercedes upper and luxury cars. Now, in this factory, modeled on this chart, the traditional assembly line is replaced by driverless transport systems in selected production areas. And then a high-performance wireless network and 5G mobile networks from the basis and the basic infrastructure to enable that, linking production systems and machines in an intelligent fashion. Another car assembly example, Belgium has a heritage for car assembly, where wireless connectivity is critical to enable the welding machines. Some of you might know that the batteries and electric motors for an electric vehicle require about 1,000 welds. Now, for a single car, such as the one in the picture, this could generate more than 500,000 pieces of data every minute. So for such processes to be efficient, you require fast, reliable, high-capacity networks for data capture and data analysis. In the world of ports, a bit further away from Antwerp, this is a picture of the Yangshan port in Shanghai. This port infrastructure started trial operations 3 years ago, and just over 3 years' time has become one of the world's largest automated container terminal. Closer to us again, in gas and chemical factories, 5G can enable the connectivity of a mobile robot, for example, to inspect leaks. Now, later today, we'll be hearing from BASF and Borealis, talking about their plans to address issues such as contamination inspection or worker safety on the floor. Now, taking a more holistic view of this different use case, which you can now see on the screen, looking at industries such as healthcare, the broader mobility ecosystems, energy and resource, but also in general manufacturing and operation side, you see quite a number of use cases, offering different levels of potential economic value, but also facing different, levels of technical difficulty, as most of these technologies need to be integrated. If you look at the bottom left of the chart, you'll see most of the cases there centered around smart operations, where tracking and tracing of people and objects can benefit from the high efficiency and these advancements that 5G offers. As you move up the level of complexity and value you can capture, this will require integration with other technologies such as artificial intelligence, drones, and other types of technologies, and therefore pushing these use cases further down the road in terms of roadmap. Now, again, assuming we have the basic infrastructure available and the spectrum available for that to happen. So our first statement was centered around the economic value and the potential at the scale of our global industries and sectors for the economy. The second statement, and we're now making a pledge and the urge to accelerate the 5G development in Belgium, and I'll probably repeat some of that, but by actually taking a quick tour around our borders. Belgium is certainly not an island, as demonstrated by the pandemic, and it's by time we accelerate. In many countries, enterprise can already access public mobile networks, request dedicated slices of public networks, or obtain a private local area license for 4G and 5G. Let's take the quick tour. Starting with France, the latest of our neighboring country having auctioned their spectrum with a fairly aggressive rollout plan for 2, 4, and 5 years. Further south, in Spain, where all operators have now switched their 5G networks. Coming back to Germany, our biggest trading partner, also rolling out the network with all 3 operators already commercially providing 5G services. The UK, where the rollout, which started a couple of years ago, is now accelerating across the main locations and cities in the country. And then finally up north, in the Netherlands, where spectrum has been auctioned recently for 20 years duration, and operators are now racing for coverage. And then eventually back to Belgium, where, as indicated before, we're still operating under a temporary license, which has been appealed, waiting for the spectrum to be auctioned. Again, we're not an island, and in the grand scheme of industry competition, we need to play catch-up. The first statement was centered around economic value. The second statement was centered around the need to accelerate the deployment of the infrastructure for Belgium to capture that value. Now, the third statement ambitions at shedding a slightly different optics to the conversation today, and that is the need for that value to be sustainable. Just like every technological evolution, 5G brings some challenges, which should be tackled in a balancing act. Some of them have been mentioned a couple of minutes ago. As a matter of fact, in our day-to-day living, or whether in our day-to-day living, or in our efforts to further leverage digital technologies in enterprise, whether to increase efficiency, productivity. I know you've been surveyed, on these questions, whether competitiveness of our business. We're experiencing new forms of imbalance. Whether it is through addiction, most probably in the consumer space, whether it is in the form of distraction, intrusion, pollution even, privacy breaches. These are the black mirrors behind every benefit brought by technologies, and 5G is not immune to that. Remember, it is the amplifier after all, so it carries that weight, which equally amplifies the attention it gets because of that position as connecting and enabling all of the other digital technologies in the enterprise. And all these technologies combined offer a tremendous value potential, just waiting to be unlocked. But in order for that value to be sustainable, we recommend that these challenges are being tackled as from the imagining and building phases of the use cases for new applications. And I certainly trust from having seen some of their presentation and cases that the cases discussion later today will evidence that, as well as the power of advanced connectivity and 5G in particular. Now, the question we'd like to leave you with today before we carry on with the rest of the program is the following. Will your business, your organization, your sector remain competitive on the European, if not the global scene, without access to 5G within a certain time frame? We may argue whether it is 2025 or 2030 for that to materialize. And not only access to that, but also access to this amplifier role it plays and the accelerator role it can play on your own digital transformation. Equally important is the question of to know whether businesses, companies, brand, institutions will continue to choose Belgium for their critical locations and site without this important enabler being available for their success. Now I'll leave you with that question, and with that, I'd like to thank you very much for your attention today and enjoy this great event.
Thank you, Vincent Fosti.
Welcome.
From Deloitte, telecommunications, media and entertainment leader for the North and the South of Europe.
Did well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, we've heard a lot of people talk. Now, Bieke, let's go back to you because I'm eager to dive into the cases, into the best practices. Take it away.
Yes. I'm very happy, Xavier, because I can receive my first guests here in my set. Welcome David Kleisters, lead data scientist at Borealis, and Jan Smet, manager connectivity at BASF. Let's start with Borealis and kick off with a short introduction video.
The moment I took my first steps, my family called me a globetrotter. I started exploring instantly. First down the road, then out of town, and later the furthest corners of the world. It was never about leaving something behind, but making the whole world my home. I've always tried capturing my moments of total freedom. I will always create. I will always walk my own way. I believe there is no end to what will be revealed to people who stay curious.
When I get an idea, it follows me around my everyday life. I will try to understand its complete cycle and impact to the tiniest detail. Is it possible to create something that won't be discarded after use, but can ultimately be recovered to create something new? How can my ideas benefit society by offering real solutions? I believe a person's greatest tools are their hands and an open mind, seeking inspiration and willing to continue improving. Our ambition lives up to the idea to change the world for the better by seeking out the next find, the next clue, the next opportunity. I dare to be different. I dare to discover.
What's your story? Borealis. Keep discovering.
That was a short discovery of the company Borealis. Let's now take a look how 5G was implemented at Borealis the past few months.
So Borealis is an integrated polyolefin producer. We produce various types of polyethylene, polypropylene, which are used in different industries: automotive, medical industry, wire and cable industry. For this specific 5G proof of concept, we've chosen to connect one of our online analyzers, which is used in the process to detect defects in the production stream, to connect that to our data storage, which is in the Azure cloud environment. The data coming from this analyzer we further process in an AI model, which is also running in the cloud, and this to support the quality control process. The analyzer produces several images, which also contain a lot of metadata. That is then further transferred to the QC laboratory using a fixed IT infrastructure. The defect itself is then further investigated in the laboratory by QC technicians who are using microscopes and the data obtained from the system. It always requires a project to do installations on new cabling infrastructure, If you have the 5G available, you can relocate an equipment and immediately again connect to the same network. Well, as 5G is a ultra-high bandwidth connection, it could be the solution that provides the same data throughput as we currently have with the fixed fiber connections. At this point, we want to assess how 5G can be a secure way to transfer data from our OT networks to the cloud. Secondly, Borealis is keen on understanding the 5G technology better, as we believe it holds a lot of potential to the future. It was also a great experience for Borealis to join this initiative, as we came out with a lot of new ideas, but also quite some challenges that further need to be investigated towards the future.
Yeah, Mr. Kleisters, why the specific choice for the use case of quality control to implement 5G at Borealis?
Okay, so indeed Borealis produces a lot of polymers which are used in day-to-day appliances, and one of the markets where we deliver to is the energy market. So we produce polymer which is used in insulation of high voltage electricity cables. So why do we then need 5G actually? Because these products need to be very clean, very pure, because otherwise you lose a lot of power along the way of your cabling. So for that, we have installed several quality checks in production, as outlined by my colleague. And basically their pictures are generated, which are sent together with physical samples to a lab for further analysis. When they are analyzed, and we see what type of contamination it is, production can act accordingly. This is a process that currently takes a lot of time in our current setup. We need to travel a lot of layers of IT infrastructure, which makes it a very complex solution, which is difficult to scale and also get some delays. With 5G, however, we can break out of this layering system and we can actually go straight from the quality detection equipment up to the cloud where we have our AI solution living. And the AI solution will improve this process even further because it automatically detects the contamination type. And that's why we have chosen this use case.
Yes, and what did you learn implementing 5G in the quality control the past few months? What are the learnings?
We learned actually a lot through trial and error, I must say. A lot about the technology itself, of course. But apart from all the hardware, the network and finding the right coverage, there is another element that I think is very important to highlight. When you introduce new technology, it often comes with concerns of people. And certainly 5G, the impact to the health, the 5G radiation on your body, there is a lot of misinformation flowing around.
As we heard earlier
As you heard earlier, indeed. And actually, this news travels much faster than all the other news. We needed to counteract this with correct information and objective facts. But that's not the only thing you want to do, because you cannot fully counter emotions with just fact-giving. So we thought about this together with Orange on how we should further take this further. And apart from information sharing and explaining why we embarked in this project and what the benefits are for Borealis, we also very much try to engage the people in the field from very early on and took them along every step in the process. An example is that, for example, when the 5G equipment was installed by Orange on site, we took representatives of our health and safety committee along and really showed them what we were doing so that they could experience it with their own eyes.
And then they felt safe and secure.
Indeed. So really this information sharing and engaging are really key success factors for a good deployment.
Yeah. You did this together with Orange. How did you experience the guidance from Orange and to be a participant of the campus?
Yeah.
The Industry 4.0 campus?
Yeah, we really had a very good collaboration
Yes.
with Orange, I must say. They really supported us along the way in a very good way. I must say, even it took up till last week before we got the real last technical issue solved. But it was really a true team effort where I'm really very proud of. And also the collaboration with the community is really something that is special, because if you normally go into an innovation project, it's mainly us, Borealis, with a solution provider. But here you have so many companies that you can collaborate with.
Yes.
And really this sharing of experience and learnings, that was really very valuable to us.
Yeah.
And something that we really want to do more in the future, I would say.
Okay, yeah, talking about the future, what will the future bring?
Yeah. Okay, Borealis is already strongly embedded in the Antwerp area, with more investments coming even in Calais. But I think we need to think beyond Antwerp. 5G will only be really established when you can do it not only in Antwerp, but
worldwide.
Also worldwide. But for that, apart from the strong community we have with industry, with the telco and the technology providers, we also need to increase attention from policymakers. Because without a good context to operate in, we cannot go further. So we really need to get them on board. And as you can see as well, we have a lot of international players. So indeed, we need to bring it more even to a European and ultimately to a global context. For that, of course, we need more harmonization on standards, regulations, and also from a technology provider, we need a good guidance on who we can work with in a European context.
Okay.
But I'm sure that we will get further on that.
Future looks bright.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sharing, you said, is very important. Sharing experiences. Let's share experiences with BASF, also a participant in the campus. Let's start with an introduction video on BASF.
Insulation, cosmetics, diapers, running shoes. These products could not have been made if not for BASF Antwerp. It's the second largest production site of German chemical concern BASF. Our 50 production plants make essential raw materials for virtually all processing sectors, from pharmaceuticals and hygiene products to the automotive industry. The site of BASF Antwerp is about the size of Antwerp's city centre. It's located at the heart of Europe and well connected to rail, road, waterways and pipeline networks. Our key operating principle is Verbund. All our plants are interconnected, meaning that the end products of one production plant serve as the raw materials for another. This way we generate less waste and need less transport and energy. For example, to make diapers superabsorbent, boats supply our steam cracker plant with naphtha as a raw material, which is then converted into propylene. Propylene is then processed into acrylic acid. Acrylic acid is the raw material for superabsorber used in diapers. Ensuring a safe working environment for employees and neighbours is priority number one. Every day, our more than 3,000 employees combine their expertise, knowledge, drive and creativity to make sure our plants run safely and smoothly. At BASF, we keep innovating for a sustainable future. We create chemistry.
Yeah, BASF creates chemistry with 5G. You experimented with 5G as well the past few months. Let's talk about it later, but first take a look at the use case.
Well, BASF is a global chemical company. We have sites all over the world. Here in Antwerp, it's a very large scale Verbund site, with different business units, different plants. Several years ago, we designed a Tetra walkie-talkie network here. So we were looking for coverage, and we set antenna sites wherever it was necessary. Also, backup and redundancy was crucial in our design. So every other technology that would be an alternative, like 5G, should comply with the same requirements. We have different use cases on 5G in different places in the world. In China, there's another situation than in Europe. And even within Europe, you have Germany and Belgium with total different situations. We have different internal customers. We have maintenance teams that have to communicate. We have operations, but also intervention teams like the medical department and the fire brigade. They have to communicate, so we are looking for technology that has a large coverage. So what do they need? Not only a very good network, which 5G surely will be, but also devices. We need not only devices that we can find off the shelf, we need devices in a chemical company. So this means they have to be explosion-proof. Also we need applications that run on those devices. And those applications have to fit our working processes, have to fit with the existing applications and so on. When we want to really implement our one device policy, then we have to lose the one or the other, the Tetra walkie-talkie or the smartphone. Before we even consider going to another technology that could bear this responsibility of mission-critical communications, the standard parameters of reliability and redundancy, backup, coverage have to be in place. So we need an end-to-end solution. It's just like cooking dinner. If you want to make a good lunch or a dinner, then you need your ingredients. At this stage, we're just at the grocery shop looking at the different ingredients. So 5G is certainly a very important ingredient.
Ja, ziekenwagen komt binnen met persoon bij bewustzijn, is van de ladder gevallen, heeft zich pijn gedaan aan zijn rechterbeen.
At the moment, push-to-talk meets only the basic requirements. I think within 5G, there will be much more possibilities in future. Spontaneously, I think of video streaming, biomonitoring, localization of the firemen, sharing quick and easy information on the scene, an extra way to alarm the other people on site, etc.
Well, working with Orange was great. They have the know-how about the radio access network, but also about the real 5G core network. So this is very important if you start exploring 5G network, of course. Next to that, they also brought in some extra devices, which we need before we can implement this use case. So this gave us a head start.
Mr. Smith, mission-critical communication, that's the area in which 5G was implemented at BASF. Why the choice for this specific use case?
Well, I think it became very clear in the film that safety is very important to BASF. BASF is a chemical company with all risks and so on, so we make no compromise on safety. That's one good reason to have this case in 5G proof of concept. Further, we have a statement saying that our future is digital, so BASF worldwide is looking at new technologies that we can use to make the production of chemicals more efficient and more sustainable. For that we have a global collaboration which we call a Lighthouse project with all major sites worldwide, where every site on its own takes a particular use case which fits best for his location.
Okay.
For Antwerp, as a big Verbund site, we thought this would be a great opportunity to check the capabilities of 5G on this level. Mission critical communication means, in fact, it's simple. You probably remember walkie-talkies from your childhood and playing with that. This is basically the professional version of this.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's called mission-critical communication. Okay. We also say mission-critical push-to-talk
Okay.
Push and talk. We use it for...
Very simple.
Very simple.
Yeah.
It's very simple, but it's pretty difficult because it always works, or it should always work, also in an emergency situation. So that's why we also saw the fire brigades, for example, and using walkie-talkies. Today we have a Tetra network, which is the technology that is used also in public safety. For example, fire brigades all over Belgium, or the police is using this technology, and this technology also changes. And we expect in a couple of years that we will have to replace this with something else.
Okay.
And 5G brings the opportunity.
Okay.
The opportunity is also keep the things working. Tetra is for us a lifeline for our workers, whether it is in operations or in
literally a lifeline.
Literally
it can be,
a lifeline, of course. Yeah. So good reasons to take this as a use case.
Yes. And what is the big value of 5G for BASF?
Well, of course, we saw already a lot of applications and a lot of possibilities of 5G, but mainly where we are focusing on in Antwerp is the mission critical part and the advantages that 5G bring us there. Yeah, security, reliability, and that's the biggest one. Being capable of separating essential from non-essential traffic. We saw the presentation about slicing. Yeah, when the fireman needs to go there in the heat of an intervention, yeah, the system should work.
Yes.
Yeah, and what we did in this use case is testing those functionalities. Yeah, so that's important.
Yeah, and what did you experience the past few months?
Well, we experienced, we learned a lot, of course, and we learned that using 5G and smartphones in an industrial context is very different than using that as a private user.
How so?
Yeah, of course you have the complexity of the devices. You don't just use your normal smartphone. It should be an 8X proof smartphone. It should be ruggedized. If it falls, it shouldn't fall apart, of course. And there's a lot of components of when you need to communicate from the field to the back office or to the cloud or whatever. There's a long way to do, and we saw a lot of components there. And in fact, as Steven mentioned in the film, we created a recipe. We have so many ingredients in that recipe, and we tested those. But we also learned that there's more than just testing those. We also learned that we have to take a lot of attention in building the network, building a reliable network where one antenna pole might go out and the network should still work. That's quite a challenge. Nobody ever did that in the 5G or even the 4G era. So also testing, it's easy to say we're going to test the network, but you need to test it in full load to test those capabilities.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's quite challenging there. We also saw some practical stuff. We saw that the new devices that are brought on the market are still not having all the features that 5G promises.
They have to follow quicker.
Yeah. And the proof of the pudding is in the eating. When you push the button, the voice message should go to the field in time. So we saw in our use case that sometimes
that was not always
still
the case.
some delay in that communication. So
all right.
We need to tackle also these things. Yeah.
Interesting. And what can you share with us about the cooperation with Orange as a part of the campus?
Yeah. Okay, we learned that working together is very important in this. We saw Orange proved in this that they are a capable partner in doing this. Yeah, we'll have to see together also in the global and local context how strategic partnerships will evolve in the future. Of course, everybody looks at
like
the market
Mr. Kleister
and looks
said,
at the possibilities. But especially in this proof of concept, we learned that Orange has quite a lot of knowledge in the area. Radio access network, the core network, you got the technical stuff just before this. And we saw that they're focused on bringing solutions. That's important. A next thing is that they listen very carefully. Yeah, so there was a great interaction with them.
We
in
are
the
listening
field.
now.
Yeah, of course. And they bring the tools. Steven in the film also mentioned this. They bring the tools, they respond fast, and it really went great. It was a great collaboration, and it tastes for more.
Yes, yes. How does the story continue for you? How do you see the future?
Well, the future is bright, and the future is now.
Right.
We see
No
that
time to waste.
we shouldn't wait to see what others do. We should bring the future ourselves. And the question is when? When will the 5G ecosystem will be ready to be used in a production area? Yeah, we hope and we strive to implement by 2025 or around that time, because that fits our investment programs and so on.
Is that also
would be
your prediction?
I guess that is a reasonable assumption indeed, that it will be along those lines, yes.
Going faster will be very challenging. The networks need to be built in the industrial environment. It's not just putting one pole, but maybe lots more than that. So we have to do it now, and we have to make sure that the infrastructure is solid and production proof. It's not just for watching a Netflix movie. It's really to do our job and to count on it. So there's a lot of work, but it looks good because we have a great team, not only with Orange and the technical players in this area, but also the government. We had good collaboration. Luckily, we got testing frequencies, but we also work together with universities and the governmental environment services to test. So they learn with us, and they're in the same train. And our train is on the track, and we keep rolling, let's say.
Direction 4.0.
Of course.
Industry. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Smit and Mr. Kleisters. Thank you well.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think, ladies and gentlemen, we gained a lot of insights on how 5G can improve the way of working at the big industrial players. There is more to come, but I suggest that we have a break now, a 10-minute break, and in the meantime our first guests can sign our digital charter. So we'll be back in about 10 minutes. See you.
Good afternoon and welcome back to the Start Walking 5G event by Orange. We have already covered much ground and maybe you have some questions on the topics we already had. Well, please use the Q&A application you find on the right end of your screen to ask us the questions you have. And at the end of the session, we will try to answer as many questions as we humanly possibly can. We left you with some best practices of 5G, some use cases. Bieke, maybe you should pick it up where you left it off before the break.
Yes, Xavier, I will. Next on my panel is Frank Guldentops, Technical Assets Manager at Covestro. Mr. Guldentops, welcome. Before we talk about your experience at the campus, let's have a look at a short introduction video on Covestro.
Where others see limits, we see opportunities and give shape to bright ideas. Transforming CO2 into living comfort. Reaching new dimensions in 3D printing. Saving energy and water to create more sustainable fashion. Outperforming metal with plastic composites. Elevating design and function for future mobility. Where others say you can't, we say, why not? Curious, courageous, and colorful. Together with customers and partners, we are pushing boundaries to make the world a brighter place.
Making the world a brighter place, maybe with 5G. You applied 5G as well in your company the past few months. Let's have a look at your use case.
I'm Peter Verdonk. I'm the venture manager for our aniline project, which is a project that we want to implement in the coming years. Aniline is an intermediate that we will use to produce MDI, which is then a building block that we use later on in the production of, for example, insulation for housing and refrigerators. MDI is a strong growing market in the world. And as Covestro is willing to grow with that product, we will expand our installation in the next years. We aim to expand 185 KT of aniline on a year basis. With 5G, we go to a full paperless world. It will enable us to an efficient environment where people can focus on their task and don't lose time on searching for paper and documentation.
Now I brought my tablet. No more paper P&ID, so I have all documentation from the plant available in my hand. So with every unexpected issue that arrives, I have the necessary documents to consult.
The biggest potential we see in using 5G is that we are able to connect to data online, fast and secure. 5G is for us a new technology. We focus on safe and reliable operations at best cost. 5G will help us a lot in regards to safety. If we are able to perform with the tablets online on a very high speed, then we can make our maintenance in such a way that we can get external online assistance and we prevent that people have to come in the installation.
This thing is great, but wouldn't it be better if I didn't have to use my hands right now? Same task, different device. Scan code, start job. View image 1.
So the philosophy behind the augmented glasses is pretty important, especially when we go to work in the field and our technician needs his hands free to work. By that we can support through the augmented glasses. I see a huge impact of the augmented glasses because through these glasses we are even able to bring the operator in the control room straight to the field and he can guide the technician in his work to do.
Hello, Olivier speaking. Hello, Olivier. This is Stefan Meilemans. I have a problem here on a pump. I hear a strange noise and I see some vibration on the shaft.
Can you get a little bit closer to the pump? I think I will need to send a specialist on the field to repair this damage. What I suggest is to create a maintenance request with medium level.
Covestro is very thankful to Orange to be asked in this working group. We see a good opportunity to bring new technology to our plant.
Yeah, bring new technology to the plant, specifically for augmented field operators. Why the choice for that specific use case of 5G?
Actually, for Covestro, digitalization in general is a strategic pillar for growth. We see it as a strategic pillar for growth. And by digitalization, we want to enable our employees that they can focus more on innovation and improvement. For the site Antwerp, as you saw in the movie, we are a long stretched site, 3 kilometers long, and we have 4 different production facilities with 4 different processes. And by implementing 5G, we really obtain that all our employees have all the required information they need, all the documentation they need available online anytime.
No more paper.
No more paper, as well as in the field as in the office. And they need to have access to the information fast and also secure, of course.
Yes. And what are the learnings from the past few months with the experiment?
From the past few months, learning about 5G, we found out that 5G was not the next G in a row. It was not a G hype, it was a complete new technology. And engineers were really successful to turn into the weaknesses of 4G into the strengths of 5G actually. For example, we all know the network congestions we had with the Pukkelpop Rock Festival or at the Zaventem bombings. And if we look now to 5G, with the slicing capability of 5G and the prioritization, mission critical information will always be possible. And of course, as Covestro, we are very interested in that feature.
Yeah. And how did you cooperate with Orange?
I must say the cooperation with Orange was excellent. We were very thankful, as Peter said, that we could participate in this pilot in the port of Antwerp. And Orange was really successful in establishing a community, a 5G community, and fostering an open experience exchange and also bringing in the 5G know-how. They did not hesitate on resources or effort. For example, for us, they were really strong in supporting us together with Deloitte in developing the software that we needed to make this test happen.
Yeah. Because that's not your core business.
That is not our core business.
No.
Yes,
And how do you see the future? What will happen?
In general, I see the future that we face a high-speed future where everything and everyone will be connected with 5G, and it will all contribute to a more sustainable economy. For Covestro specific, I think 5G will be the catalyst for further digitalization and help us to improve our reliability, availability, and also our cost effectiveness.
Yeah. A bright future.
A bright future, yes.
Thank you so much. And a familiar face here in my set, Mr. Erwin Verstralen. We already saw you on stage with Xavier, so no need to introduce the Port of Antwerp anymore. Let's move straight to the use case of 5G at Port of Antwerp.
In the Port of Antwerp, we provide services, tugboat services, to get the really big vessels or barges through the docks, because some of them are too big and they need some external help by pulling or pushing the boat to the correct place.
when you have two tugboats, there's a really big vessel in between. One tugboat doesn't see what the other tugboat is doing. 5G could help us to send the data on a reliable, fast manner to the other boats. So safety is guaranteed, operational excellence is guaranteed. For the moment we are using a PTZ camera, that's a camera you can move. When you would use a fixed camera, you always have the same point of view. With a PTZ we can move and we can film the different angles and we can react to the situation at that moment. In this experiment the images are sent from the tugboat to the control room, but also we can view it on any place we want with our working stations. The next step would be to send them to the other tugboat who is helping the vessel. Another thing is everything we do is filmed, so when there is some damage or we have some issues, we have some kind of evidence. We are really focusing on technology with this use case. We have some CPEs, we have modems, but they are really not industrialized or for industrialized mode. So that's a kind of challenge to get rugged devices. And the other challenge is, of course, the coverage in the port. In the beginning we had one antenna, two, now it's rolled out over the whole port. From my point of view, the collaboration of Orange is good. They supply us with technical experience, the challenges, they help us, they are really willing to get it started.
Yeah, Mr. Verstraelen, a very specific use test case of 5G to monitor activity, am I right?
Yeah. So when we joined the consortium, we said, okay, what can we bring on the table that gives a unique use case? And since we have tugboats, we said, okay, let's go for that. Which creates a set of challenges on its own because you're talking about a steel construction, floating, moving, but it's full of potential interesting things we can do with 5G. First of all, it's the floating office for 3 people on board, so they like to check mails and so on as well from time to time, need to be in communication. But since they are floating and driving through the port, it provides us with an additional set of eyes. So if we put, as you have seen in the demo or in the movie, with a camera, then as the tugboat goes through the port, we can see around and see together with the people on board what is taking place. So in terms of a calamity, you can send them over there to have situational awareness. And then this specific idea we have is that a typical ship, you have 2 tugboats, one on the front and one on the back, but they don't see one another all the time.
No, that's what we saw,
So if you would be able to provide a pair of eyes for the 2, where they can see what their other colleagues is doing, that might improve security a lot.
Yes, safety, What are the challenges and what are the opportunities?
Well, the challenges is that, as I said, it's a moving object. Steel has to operate in all kinds of weather. So the question is, how stable can the connection be? And for sure that required quite some tweaking. But we are moving in the right direction. So once we have that up and running, we can start building on that. So in terms of opportunities, once you have that, well, another thing would be to connect the local onboard radar with the broader radar network so that we can see much more clearer within the port, also smaller objects that the big radar towers don't see. And from there on, we also have depth sounding boats that you have real-time data streaming to the shore when somebody's doing depth soundings. So then the opportunities become as big as your imagination basically is.
And how did the experiment go? What are the big learnings?
Well, that this young technology where we gradually improve as we move along, so it's not plug and play, but okay, that's not an issue. We knew that from the start, so that's why we are part of early on, part of the consortium, to learn from one another and to experiment.
That's why we're here.
And why we provide these challenging environments, because there's nothing easier than do it in a lab, but do it in the real world with real use cases, in a port area, which is a very complex kind of an environment. And we have already a lot lot of learnings that we can take with us and be prepared once the rollout really starts. Huh?
Yes.
So we're really happy to have had the opportunity and still have the opportunity to be early on in the game. Huh?
Yes, and how did Orange facilitate?
Well, first of all, we are really, really happy and thankful for the fact that Orange took the step when we said, listen, we open up the port as an innovation platform and we think 5G initially is primarily going to be B2B. Why don't you do it over here? Because you have in a very condensed environment. Well, condensed, it's still very big, but nevertheless 1,000 companies, a lot of relevant use cases. And yeah, they took the engagement to build one of the largest standalone 5G networks in Europe, which I salute them for doing that, because it's a gutsy call to invest so early on. So, and then on top of that, they created this consortium where they brought companies together on a regular basis to exchange experiences and what are you doing and how have you evolved and what are your key takeaways, and that's a community that has been built, and that provides on top of that additional value where we can learn from one another, and that's really, really valuable, so to speak.
And in what way will 5G inspire the future?
First of all, for ourselves in our role as Port Authority towards safety, security, operational efficiency, as you've seen, this is one of them. Having smart cameras everywhere, being able to deploy drones to have oversight on what is taking place, but also for everyone who's operational in the port as part of the supply chain, being able to track and trace containers, to know exactly where ships are, to know exactly where trains are, to be notified earlier on of disruptions in supply chain. So the ideas keep flowing of what is possible. So it's important to understand that this is a new building block in a digital world we can leverage on, and a very important one for that matter.
Okay, loads of benefits I learned from you. Thank you so much. Please be seated. We have another poll question popping up. Normally, ladies and gentlemen, at home or at the office, it should be popping up on your screen right now. Let's have a look at it together. Of all the cases presented here today, this afternoon, for which 5G application or applications do you see an immediate benefit for your business? Is that for the mission critical communication they applied at BASF? Is it for the quality control at Borealis? Or is it for the augmented field operation project Covestro showed us? Or for the activity monitoring you saw at the port of Antwerp? So one of these answers or multiple answers, please make a choice. We will give you some time to do that. And then we go back to Xavier. Xavier, what's up there?
Well, I can tell you, Bieke, we are nearing the end of the session. It has been inspiring up until now, and also the end will be inspiring. We've heard a great deal about the importance of 5G. I would even dare to say the necessity of 5G in some cases for the industrial players. But now the big question is, for everybody who is watching this, what's in it for me? What's in it for my company? How can 5G reinforce my company, my brand, my business? Werner de Laat, once again.
Hello, Xavier.
Welcome on stage. You already gave us an insight on the importance of 5G and the working of the Industry 4.0 campus. Will there be a collaboration model for other companies as well?
Yeah, there will be. But you know, I never asked directly to your question.
Ah, okay.
So
once again, you're going to be delaying it.
Yeah, going to, I will keep on increasing the suspense.
Okay, but you're not doing it alone?
No.
There's somebody here.
Indeed.
Yeah. Let's please welcome to the stage Glenda Brady. She's the VP Europe Sales, Pre-Sales and Marketing at Orange Business Services.
Yeah. Hello, Glenda. So indeed, as Xavier said, and Beacon as well, great achievements of all of the participants to our Orange 5G Innovation Campus in the Port of Antwerp. Again, I want to thank all of them for their commitment, their, I would say, open spirit collaboration. I think even in these difficult circumstances, because we were limited due to some COVID limitations, we achieved to make together great results. Now, before I will answer to what's the next step, I want to hear from Glenda how this all fits into the strategy of the Orange Group. Glenda?
Thank you, Werner. Well, innovation and co-innovation are at the heart of Orange's strategy. Our vision is to enable a digitally, globally connected business world of helping customers realize the power of data for human innovation. With the Orange research teams, which number over 8,000 people globally, we explore the uses and benefits of new technologies driving digital transformation, and we co-innovate with our customers to identify use cases that create real value for their businesses. Now, we all know that digital transformation is accelerating, but the key challenge will be how to handle and to exploit the vast quantities of data generated by organizations and ecosystem partners. There are a number of steps that must be mastered to manage the data journey successfully, and we call these steps the data journey. First, data must be collected, then transported, stored, and processed before it is analyzed, shared, and exploited for business value creation. And throughout each of these steps, it must be kept safe and protected. Now, there can be challenges at each of these steps and in integrating all of these steps together. And our priority in Orange is to understand these challenges and to listen and respond to our customer needs at each stage in their data journey. Now, remember these steps. There's not going to be a poll question or a test on them, but I will come back to them later. But now let's move on to innovation, co-innovation in the context of 5G. As you have seen today, over the last 18 months, 5G has been a catalyst for co-innovation with multiple projects across Europe and across many vertical sectors, as we've seen earlier and can see on the slide here. Now, all of these projects were driven either by cost and process efficiency improvement or by creating new services for customers or improving existing services for end customers. But what have we learned from these 5G innovations? Well, first, that 5G is a key enabler for Industry 4.0, especially when it addresses the operational or OT technology in manufacturing and industry. Secondly, the first ROI can be driven by end-of-life maintenance, heavy technology replacement. And thirdly, it is through industry-specific, end-to-end use cases that true value generation will be achieved. But Werner, you'll agree, all of these co-innovations are great, but how can we help our customers move to operational solutions? First, let's take a look at our 5G standalone offers. Now, Valerie already touched on some of these earlier. Our business consultants support customers with ideation, innovation frameworks, and digital transformation blueprints and business cases. Our consulting experts can focus on key 5G deliverables, right from helping you identify the right use case through to helping you design the architecture. And our project management teams can help you both on the project rollout and on the run phases. Our second offer, already also mentioned by Valerie today, is of course the Industry Campus Mobile Private Networks. As she mentioned, we have several flavors of topologies. The first one being a fully private network with the infrastructure on-site and customer-owned frequencies. Hybrid, which is a dedicated network equipment keeping your data on-site but integrated with public network. Or indeed, a virtual private network fully benefiting from operator infrastructure. Now, in Orange, we can address, of course, the MPNs to be deployed across our own Orange 5G footprint, currently 6 countries in Europe today, with more to come in 2021, for example, Slovakia. But we can also accompany customers who are using us on our Orange footprint today, outside our Orange footprint, and even beyond, depending on local spectrum availability and the specific needs of the customer. In fact, the reality today is that we are addressing RFIs and RFPs for global MPNs that extend beyond the Orange 5G network. Now let's take a look at the industry-specific solutions around the business journey that I referred to earlier. We actually have 5 prepackaged Industry 4.0 offers for international rollout. The first of these is smart tracking, and it's aimed at improving processes in factories and warehouses, such as tool tracking and inventory management. We recently equipped a production site of 50,000 square meters for one of the world's leading aircraft manufacturers to track 20,000 tools to within a precision of 2 meters in a telecom-unfriendly environment. This is the largest, if not, it is the largest reference, I believe, in the industry of its kind. The second offer is around worker safety, and this is about protecting workers in production or warehouse environments. And this is all about geofencing, protection equipment checks, social distancing, of course, and collision avoidance. We recently supported the zero harm ambition of De Beers on one of their mining ships, where we enabled them to take life-saving actions at crucial moments during the mining process. Now, Valerie touched on augmented worker earlier. This is about using an augmented and virtual reality at supporting operators in tasks to be performed with remote experts, seeing the same content and interacting with relevant databases. We equip technicians in 2 different mining areas with AOR solutions that enabled remote training support from experts for heavy machinery maintenance. And finally, remote monitoring, or equipment monitoring, as you prefer, is aimed at getting real-time information and KPIs on machines or devices, defining thresholds for normal behavior, reducing unexpected downtimes using service platforms such as Siemens MindSphere. It can also enable predictive maintenance as the solution implemented for ELM Leblanc, which is part of the Bosch group for its boilers. Werner, I hope I've answered Xavier's question on co-innovation and how it fits in the Orange B2B strategy. And now I believe you're going to give us a local flavor of what's happening in Belgium.
Yes, indeed, because there are a lot of questions or a lot of companies that will ask now, what about me? What I'm interested, I'm convinced, so what about me? And I can tell you, we heard today a lot of positive testimonials about this network in Antwerp. So indeed, it would be a pity to stop this network, but it would be even more a pity to stop the good exchange of ideas, of experience between the members of our co-investment community within the Port of Antwerp. So all members agreed to continue. First meeting in November is already planned, so we will further exchange our experience with all of the participants. Today, for example, we didn't hear about Katoen. Also, their use case is almost finished, so there is clearly more news to come in the coming weeks and the coming months. Now, of course, as I said, we use a test license. We use a test license that we obtained from the regulator, BIPT. We obtained, in the meantime, temporary commercial license. So today, I can tell you that we already are adapting our network to make it working with our commercial temporary license. Afterwards, we will, of course, also modify this network that it continue to work once we have obtained a full 5G license, once these auctions have taken place. Now, as earlier said, we use ZTE equipment. We've signed an agreement with ZTE to also continue to do the support in 2021. And afterwards, we will modify, we will change this network based on our vendor selection. As you probably have read, we will use Nokia for the radio, and early 2021, we will do a selection of the equipment vendor for the core network, so for the intelligence of the network. Now, this is all great, so we will do the co-innovation, but what about the companies that are not part of this community? What about a company that is not located in this area? Well, we will launch, as of today, 2 commercial modules, 2 commercial offers to help companies to guide the way to 5G. So to prepare and to implement real use cases. To be more precisely, in our first offer, which we called the preparation, the get started, we will organize tailored workshops and trainings for a company specifically designed to understand what 5G technology means, specifically the slicing, the security part. These companies will have the possibility to have an open discussion with 5G experts within Orange, both locally and internationally, and they will have access to the Orange 5G labs. It will enable you, together with us, to identify your first 5G use case. Now, in the second module, we will implement this use case. So we will do, together with your company and with your people, the solution design of this 5 use case. This can be a quick start, so it could be a use case that is already deployed elsewhere, or it could be a full extended proof of concept. Within this model, you will of course have access to a 5G network, and you will also have access to 5G devices. It can be devices that were already fully tested by Orange on the network, or we could do prototyping based upon tailored 5G devices. At the end, we will do, together with you, end-to-end implementation of this 5 use case during a fixed period on the network. Now, we are well aware that it's not the ideal period to get innovation budget, to get budgets in general. That's why at Orange we did an enormous effort to reduce this to a minimum price. And just to give you an idea, Module 1 will be priced around 20,000 to 30,000 euros. Model 2 will be priced between 30,000 and 70,000 euros. So with this kind of amounts, and especially with the added value that such a use case can bring, we think this is a very low entry ticket to start your 5G journey. With this, we think, we are sure that we are ready. We hope you are as well.
Of course, we are ready. Thank you, Werner De Laat and Glenda Brady. In the meantime, I got my hands on the results of the second poll. Let's take a look at it. It's very interesting to see that the use case that will bring the most benefit to your company is, according to you, the augmented field operator project, as we saw at Covestro. So maybe, Xavier, back to you. Maybe your guests can comment on that?
Yeah, that will be my guest, Werner De Laat, indeed. I want to thank Glenda Brady, VP Europe Sales, Pre-Sales and Marketing at Orange Business Services, for that explanation. Werner, maybe you want to comment on the result of the poll we just saw.
Yeah, we as Orange, we know the details of each use case, so we know how innovative each of them are. Of course, it's always easier to create imagination around something that you can show visually, so it's not a big surprise that the one of Covestro is coming out of the crowd.
An image helps to make it...
Image helps to make your point, if I can say this. Now I want to come back on what Bart de Wever said in the beginning. So we are now deploying 5G in the port of Antwerp. We know why, because we had to obtain a certain test license. There's a lot of barriers to make on emission norms, etc. But indeed, imagine that we can deploy this technology into the city. I still have one more thing to show to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Helicus is an organization, a startup company that coordinates for different large organizations an integrated, remotely automated platform for drone deliveries. So the use case behind all of our activities is basically a medical one. We were triggered by doctors who were running into problems because they agree that the future of medical service is specialization. So that different hospitals start collaborating and that each specializes in a certain expensive technical capability. For example, clinical biology or the clean room for chemotherapy preparation and so on. And then from those areas there would be interaction with the other locations. The evolution towards this future would lead to additional demand for ground-based transport, which is the current only solution. And this is dramatic because, of course, we already know that we have a congested situation, so this is not a solution. And therefore, we were requested, can we not leverage drone capability? And we started to study that, and indeed, the more hospitals start to work together in networks, the more the need arises and the more the interest grows. And for that reason, we are now in commercial and R&D relationships with 30 hospitals. We have launched the HI SES project. HI is the name of our Helicus Air initiative, our ecosystem of companies that we collaborate with on various projects. And the SES acronym stands for scheduling, which is AI-based routing optimization software that we use to calculate optimized routes between hospitals, for example. The second letter in the acronym SES stands for connectivity, very important also on this conference where we have definite use and need of 5G. 5G offers us a reliable, dedicated, guaranteed connection where we have low latency and high bandwidth available. This is absolutely important to offer remotely controlled command and control center based services. And then finally, the third letter in the SES acronym stands for security, cybersecurity. This is a key component when we are covering medical needs, medical transports. So far, most typical exercises, demonstrations have been pilot-based, individual flights, visual line of sight, and we need to get away from that. We need to get to an economical, viable model, and therefore 5G is key. Collaborating with Orange as a telco is extremely important because we are a very strong believer in leveraging the cellular systems that are in place to use the most modern equipment that is available, 5G, in order that we can have a very smooth rollout through not only Belgium, the Netherlands and Germany where we now have projects, but also actually beyond that. And Orange is actually, of course, a very interesting partner because also in France we have some interactions with the group, and that is, of course, interesting for a Belgian company.
And that was the one more thing from Werner de Laat, the CEO, Innovation and Wholesale, Orange. Don't leave yet. We're almost at the end of this inspirational afternoon, but we've been advertising this whole Q&A session. So I have some questions for you, and I can only
hope you have.
Yeah, and I hope you have.
Now I will reply directly.
I hope so. I hope so. No diversions. I hope you have the answers. First question is, where would you advise a company to start when they are convinced 5G is worth exploring?
Well, I think today you have seen the richness of the use cases and especially the richness of the exchange. That's why I think we are there to help customers to start this journey. I think with these two commercial offers, again, they are low entry. I think this is a good way forward to explore together on what can 5G bring to a company. Now, as said before, based on the testimonials, there's a lot of things that we already know. There is still an ecosystem that has to be created. A number of times we have heard devices. I think it's an open innovation to the device manufacturer to indeed team up with us and to make sure that the industry can have these robust and safe equipment using the 5G technology. So I think for any company, customer or prospect, I think please call us and we'll make sure that we can help you to start this 5G journey together.
And you can implement it, and that's another question, but what about the coverage of 5G? Is it everywhere?
Yeah, the coverage of 5G, it's of course linked with the license of 5G and the good circumstances to deploy 5G. I've already highlighted before that, of course, we need a license. So as long as we don't have a license, it would be very difficult, economically speaking, to do the full rollout. Now, as you know, on the radio deployment, we are in a JV, in a joint venture, together with another operator, to make sure that once we have a go, once we have the license, that we can rapidly deploy the 5G within the country. Now, of course, in the Industry 4.0, we will focus especially on industrial areas or industrial settings. Now, license is one thing. The other one is on the emission norms. In the BASF case, it was already mentioned that indeed the Flemish government has asked to an independent consultant to do measurements on our network in order to enable them to adapt these norms on this new technology. And I think, therefore, it would be most probably that you would see a faster deployment in Flanders than in the other parts of the country. Of course, we hope that the other federal governments will follow the example of the Flemish government, of course.
Another question, and it gets more technical now.
Yeah.
Will the future smart factory replace its legacy technology with 5G?
I think we have seen very inspiring testimonials. Of course, we will see that 5G will start to be more and more part of this industrial setting. I think the example, again, of BASF is very illustrating one, where an old technology like the Tetra network, which they use for emergency reasons, clearly there on, I would say, short to mid-term, there it could be feasible to make this shift to 5G. In other applications, it depends really on, I would say, the kind of use cases, but we will probably see gradually 5G entering the industry area.
And this is a big technical question. Why choose ZTE for the test? Because also Proximus and Orange recently announced to have selected Nokia for the deployment of its network. Why?
Yeah, I must say the cooperation with ZTE from the start was a win-win. Why? First of all, I want to thank them. If you look at today's situation, and especially a year ago, ZTE was the most advanced in this network slicing. And that is really the feature we wanted to test on this industrial setting. Now, of course, afterwards, all equipment vendors will follow or do follow. And there, based on the, I would say, the request for proposal we made earlier, we made a selection of what is the best value for money that we have on the different offers. And there I must say that indeed the European vendors have made a big change versus what we've seen in the past towards Chinese vendors.
And that's all the time we have for this Q&A. Thank you so much, Wedne de Laat, CEO, Innovation and Wholesale at Orange.
Thank you.
Yes, and that's about all the time we have for now. Unfortunately, our time is up. We hope we managed to give you some inspiration with the testimonials, with the use cases, with the best practices, with the keynotes, and everything that was brought to the table today. And I'm joined once again by Bieke.
Hello,
Hi, you're back.
Again. If you want to watch some of the use cases again, or the complete session as a whole, you will find all the content as of tomorrow on business.orange.be/startwalking5G. We will also drop all the questions that were not unfortunately covered in the Q&A on that website, along with the answers from our 5G specialists. And if ever you have a question about what Orange can do with 5G for your company, that's the source.
We thank you for your presence. We were very glad to be able to talk to you today in a virtual way. We hope to do that in the near future in a real live event, but that's not the case yet. Maybe the next time we see each other, it will be virtual again. But in the meantime, don't hesitate and start walking 5G. Thank you. Bye.